Hello and welcome to the Our Metroidvania podcast. This is Cauldrath from the Our Metroidvania subreddit and Discord.
Hi, this is Master. I'm also from there.
Hi, I'm Atcero, and I'm your local's Link simp. And today,
Okay.
I'm gonna be playing Twilight Princess while we talk about tutorials.
You're a
Ooh.
limp.
Huh?
Yeah, if you were watching, what? So if you were watching the medium, not an episode towards the end of it, we were talking about how players sometimes don't learn properly how to play your game, and we decided that we could probably make a podcast episode about that. So here's that episode.
Yeah. Tutorials.
Woo! And everyone bitches about TP's tutorial. I personally have never minded it.
Just kinda long,
Yeah.
from what I remember.
So it's not a very dense tutorial. Like it does a lot of world building and plot setup along with the tutorial, so that kind of draws it out.
You could say it's more of a prologue that also happens to be a tutorial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though if one wanted to replay the game, surely this would be the part of the game they would want to skip.
Nope. I've replayed this game like 4 or 5-ish times, and I've never cared about it.
I
I've
see.
never minded it, actually.
Yeah, we were looking up when this came out. It was in 2006.
Yep.
I'm like, so I haven't played this game in 16 years.
You only played it at release?
Yeah, on
Wow.
the Wii.
Jeez.
So my link was right here.
Oh, so you had the bad version of the game. I'm sorry.
I don't like that they did that.
No. Well, and I understand why, but I don't agree.
Yeah, like he
I'm
has always
left-handed,
been
it's a slap in
left-handed.
the face.
Oh, then you're gonna hate Skyward Sword.
Thing is, like, it's not the same Link, so it can kind of make sense for one iteration of Link to be
Yeah.
right-handed. But
No, he
he's
must be
classically
exactly the same in every way.
Wait, Link deadass has the I could see the Triforce in, in that cutscene. I saw the Triforce on his hand. It was just right there, and no one ever thought anything of it. Okay.
it's a graphical glitch.
Just a really weird birthmark, I don't know.
Yeah,
There's Ilya.
the childhood friend.
Hey. Oh.
Yeah, so, like, how far are we into this? We're 3 minutes in and you haven't, like,
I could
had
skip
any game.
this. I'm
You
just
could.
not skipping it.
Right, but we're 4 minutes in now and there's been no gameplay yet. So this has all been,
Okay,
like, plot
Cauldrath,
setup.
this is a AAA Nintendo title.
I'm not saying it's wrong for them to do that. I'm just saying that this is why the tutorial is so long. Is it's not strictly a tutorial.
My map is still a little fucky. Oh, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, you're on widescreen. Yeah, did it just stretch the screen and that's how it's widescreen?
No. The widescreen glitch actually tried to go past what it was.
Oh, that's why the hearts are like, and the other things in the UI are
Yeah,
so.
no, I turned off the
hard.
widescreen thing too, though, so this is weird.
Like it looks like he's like a dwarf, like squat and stout.
Do you want me to fix it?
No.
I'm fixing it.
Yeah, he does look Hobbit-ish.
Graphics. General. Auto. See if that works. Thankfully, I can skip all that now. Kind of.
Oh, you had to restart.
Yeah.
Yeah, good thing you didn't wait too long.
Exactly, it's like... We're getting 4-3 then.
Oh yeah. That's what it was designed for.
I played it on a 16 by 9 when I was a kid. It was fine, but okay.
Sorry, I didn't have that fancy of a TV.
There we go. Map's still a little weird, but you know, we're gonna accept that.
He looks like a person now.
A human. Even though he's not human, he's a Hylian, which is basically an elf.
There we go. Gotta get the rupees early so I can get the slingshot.
And you're doing all this stuff the game hasn't even expressly taught you yet. Although it has the, like, context-sensitive button in the upper right telling you what it does.
Well, not
So
only
that's
that, okay. If you are not a newcomer to Zelda, this is gonna be kind of whatever for you. This is like, oh yeah, it's Zelda.
Mhm. But if you don't know, like, it tells you pressing up is items. Pressing A there is enter. Like, the UI, like, has tutorial elements in it.
Oh yeah. Especially when you're doing like me right now, and I forgot if there's rupees under here or not, and there are none. That was me.
It's extremely useful, especially for complicated games, to have the buttons, or at least some of the buttons, define what their uses are on screen in some way.
Yeah, that's something the Zelda series has done a lot of, is they, like, have buttons bound to, like, items, and then you see the button and the item on your UI, so you know what it corresponds to.
Well, hi, Mark.
Yeah, I'm especially thinking of some of the more complicated PC games out there, such as the Arma series, or where you'll have to press like Control Numpad 4 to change your radio channel or something.
Yeah, and you have to just memorize all that.
Yeah, see, look at that! That Triforce is just right there!
Maybe that doesn't mean anything to them.
Maybe Link was in a Triforce-shaped industrial accident.
Ah! There you go.
Zoom in, zoom out, dismount.
Yeah, I'm sure because the GameCube with the Wii, if you count both of them, those had to be some of the biggest selling Nintendo consoles to date at that point. So I can understand why the tutorial would be a little longer, especially if you're trying to rope more people and a new generations into Zelda.
Yeah, I think this was a launch title for the Wii.
Yep, it was, and that's why they had backwards compatibility with the GameCube, just like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. I mean, the GameCube never really sold that well, did it?
No, but with the Wii, it did.
Yeah.
Like, I was probably not alone in playing the Wii version of this. Like, it was probably more Wii than GameCube.
Fuck the Wii version.
It's
How
literally
do we
the
make the
only...
Link right-handed? Let's just mirror the whole game! What?
How do you know it's, the GameCube version isn't mirrored?
Because he's left-handed.
Maybe they anticipated that. Made for the Wii.
Is... I believe there's some bugs in the left hand, or in the Wii too, isn't there? That weren't in the GameCube?
Probably.
But this is Zelda, you want bugs, so you can speedrun and get to the end in 10 seconds.
Why do you start off the game with 0 rupees? You're just completely broke.
Yeah. Well, you can get more
Does
rupees
anyone
from
here
his
have
house.
rupees?
Yeah, he keeps the rupees in, like, do you carry cash around with you everywhere you go? Like, when you're just...
They didn't have debit
normal
cards back then, Master. Gosh. Oh no, I pissed him off. Shit.
Why didn't you just grab rupees from your house instead of checking every single rock if you
Because I
wanted
forgot
enough
they're in
of
his
it?
house, because I usually just go
Okay.
around and smash every rock!
How many
Like-
rupees does he have in his house?
I don't remember.
Like,
Is
it's
slingshot like a big, like a
Get out of the way, my
an
guy.
expensive purchase for Link? What does he
Like-
even buy with his rupees?
Slingshot. Well, that's what I'm gonna get. Woo! I did it!
yeah, Link doesn't know that he's going off on an adventure. Like, why would he take all of the money out of his like piggy bank or whatever? Piggy jar bank,
Ooh, fences.
jar banks.
This is the tutorial for jumping over stuff, which was not prevalent as much as it was in Ocarina of Time, actually. So I don't know why they had us do that when you only use it really in one battle.
The thing is, like, these tutorials, they're just like, hey, jump over this fence. That, like, the people aren't saying like press A to jump over this fence.
No,
But,
no,
like-
but they didn't teach you that. They taught you it in Ocarina of Time, but you also used it to get to other areas in Ocarina of Time.
Right, but you can't assume people played Ocarina of Time.
No, no, no. What I'm saying is, it's weird that they had a tutorial for something you never use in this game.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Not that, oh, well, if you
We were
played
making
Ocarina of
separate
Time.
points.
Yeah, we are making very different points. No, my only fear and weakness, small children. Ah, they got the music. Wait, can I technically go down there and get the thing I want? Where's that?
Link's
Like, just-
walking animation does look slightly goofy at times.
It's because he's left-handed. It looks fine on the Wii version.
I'm sure it does.
Okay, yeah, I can't find it.
Yeah, like, why does he have a room in his house like this?
'Cause you get the lantern!
But why would you have, like, when you don't have a lantern, why would you have a, like, completely dark room in your house?
I don't know,
Did you
but
just lose the lantern?
doesn't this make it a Metroidvania? There's an area I have to get an item for and go back to. Obviously, it's an MV.
It's
Maybe-
a soft ability, eh? Because you don't need the lantern.
Yeah.
Maybe at the right time of day, the sun will shine into his basement and he'll be able to kind of see.
Yeah, you should go down there and wait for 24 hours.
Okay, I'll go get the money. Oh, there's money. I don't remember how much I need. I think it's like 30 some. So, time to do
Yeah,
the tried and true method.
Inflation, I don't know how much it is now.
Yeah, no shit.
So what is the purpose of a tutorial?
Teach the player how to play your game. Oh, there used some, like, stuff in the, like, gave you some controls.
Yeah.
If a game is constantly teaching you new things, could you say that you're always playing a tutorial?
You could.
I personally would say no. To me, a tutorial is something that is meant to teach basics. So anything more complicated than the basics or compounding on those basics, I would say are not tutorials.
So you'd only call it a tutorial if it's the beginning of a game, the new player experience. And you wouldn't call it a tutorial if it was something happening halfway through the game.
Yes. Unless they completely spring a new mechanic on you. Like, this guy was
Yeah,
trying to
plenty of
do
games
that
do that.
tutorial, and I just completely ignored him.
Yeah, a lot of, like, yeah, Zelda, a lot of times, like, you'll get a new item and then I'll do, like, a little tutorial for that item.
Get the hook shot and the game goes, point at the wall and hook it.
Gotten rusty.
So I think we can all agree that there can be varying amounts of tutorialization throughout the game, but when we say that something is the tutorial,
It's the beginning, yeah.
that should refer to the beginning.
So if it's yeah, so you can have a tutorial that is not the tutorial.
There, buddy. I don't know if I can get that. I think that's a miss.
I suppose in a game that doesn't have the tutorial, but slowly introduces new mechanics, you could argue it doesn't have a tutorial.
No,
Because
I would say there's two kinds of tutorial or main types. The ones that introduce it to you through the gameplay itself, and then the ones who just straight up tell you about it. Which Twilight Princess kind of does a mix of both. But like Mega Man X, that tutorial is completely gameplay based. Like you learn and you get the tutorial essentially based on the game design of the first level and how it works in that regard, rather than them telling you. But it would still very much a tutorial, just not one most people think of.
Then you have the third type where they just give you a book and say, read this thing, it'll tell you everything to do.
Oh, you mean Lama Lana?
what?
Read the instruction manual.
Did they ever tell you to do that in the game?
No, but I think it was expected. Kind of like other old games.
That's
Since
some
La
useful
Mulana
stuff.
was modeled after older games. That,
Certainly useful, but it's different from if you've ever played these Actronics games. Several of those
yeah.
expect you to just open up the manual basically.
Yeet!
Thing there isn't fall damage for that.
Like you'll boot up TIS 100, and on the main menu is a button that just opens up a PDF. Like for your computer's default PDF opening program that just has the manual in it.
Yeah, I think for some games that are just that complicated, you can't really like do a tutorial, like a regular tutorial for them. Because
mean-
it's just too much information to throw at a person at once.
I don't know, you still have, it still introduces you to how to use different mechanics, different commands, you could say. This game I'm thinking of, TIS 100, essentially gives you a rudimentary programming language, and you have to read the tutorial to know how to structure your commands and which commands there are. But through the gameplay you are taught how to effectively use these commands in combination.
How do you think those rupees wind up on the rooftops?
Man, I don't question it.
I think the crows steal them from people's pockets and place them in the trees.
And then the wind knocks them out of the roof?
Yes. I mean, when was the last time you've been on your roof? There could be money up there.
Yeah, I guess I haven't been there.
Oh boy, it's the cat mission. I love it.
Tutorial, how to deal with cats.
Yep, I know how to deal with the cat.
So when would you say that a more direct text-based tutorial is better than a gameplay tutorial.
Depends on how complicated the game is and what kind of game it is.
Yeah, it's probably almost always better to have something where it's
Gameplay,
just like,
yeah.
yeah, gameplay, and it like introduces you to a small amount of information, and then progressively gives you more. But if your game is like extremely complicated, then you probably wind up with such a long tutorial at that point that it would drive players off.
Oh, I got a cradle.
Well, you could have a very complicated game, but if the complexity slowly increases over time, then you could effectively use a gameplay tutorialization to convey the information, yes?
Yeah, I'm just saying that if your game is complex enough, then the amount of tutorial that you would have to give to like do a normal tutorial for every bit of information would wind up extremely long.
Maybe. Though if you play a puzzle game, one could argue that the tutorials are baked into the game, such as Baba is you. In this game, you frequently have to experiment with the game's mechanics to discover new ways of applying them. And discovering the new way of applying a mechanic is often the puzzle. So you could argue that the puzzles in that game are tutorials, as long as they're teaching you something new.
That was actually one of the problems I had with that game is that you would sometimes like because the levels weren't all in a like set order, you could sometimes wind up at puzzles where they assumed that you knew something that you didn't encounter the tutorial for yet.
Yeah, that's certainly a problem with more open-ended games. Though that that idea can also be taken advantage of. I have in mind The Witness, if you've ever played that game.
I still haven't played that.
There are certain mechanics that you aren't really introduced to in a particular place, and the game expects you to figure out the mechanics uh, over time through trial and error in different places in no particular order.
Mm-hmm. Got stuck in that game.
Yeah.
And I dropped it and never picked it up.
You may assume that you know what I'm talking about because there's a mechanic people tend to talk about when they talk about The Witness, but I'm not talking about that mechanic. I'm talking about a different mechanic.
I have no idea what mechanic you're honestly talking about. It's been
Okay.
like years since I played it.
Oh no, the cat stole the fish.
No, that's what it's supposed to.
Link
Now I can go
looks
buy the slingshot.
terrified. You should catch more fish.
No. I do not like fish minigames unless I can get the bottle, which I know exactly where to get the bottle in this game. So if I need to, only reason I'm doing the fishing minigame, get bottle.
Is it really fishing if you're trying to catch a bottle?
I mean, I can fish the bottle out of the water.
Is
I guess
magnet fishing fishing? If you're catching
I don't
things
know.
that aren't fish, are you fishing?
I don't know. I'm not really a fishing gatekeeper.
Oh, it's only 30.
Isn't that what you said? 30? I don't know.
No, I thought it was 40. Or no, did I say 30? I probably said 30. But then I got the extra 10 just in case. I'm paranoid.
One could argue that Metroidvanias intentionally do not explain certain mechanics to the player and require them to both find the associated ability and learn how to effectively utilize that ability in order to overcome a challenge.
Yeah, I think one of the important things is that if it's obvious what ability you need to get through an ability gate, then it just doesn't have the same impact when you get that ability and have that like, oh, so I needed to use this there.
I agree. And there is a whole spectrum of how games uh, implement that concept, I suppose. There are, I don't remember an example, well, I suppose I do. Vigil, the ability gates in that game were just, I believe, so there was the dash jumps and there were colored doors, and there wasn't anything else, correct?
There was the slide, but you got that like right as you transitioned to the new section.
I have some memory of some game specifically telling the player what ability they need for a gate, and I'm not sure what I'm thinking of.
Was it Metroid Dread?
It's not something I played, so it could have been.
Because it like marks on your map in Metroid Dread, like here's an ability gate. Come back to this later.
You're like, you need the double jump to get up there. Don't go up there. Yeah, I would definitely say that marking certain things on the map is useful. However, turning what could be an interesting ability gate into something that can only be seen as a door that requires a key,
Mhm.
that's not something games should do.
So, Metroid Dread, I did it because it's kind of a game that wants to hold your hand. Like, it seemed to be designed so that the player, wouldn't get lost. And if you don't want the player to get lost, then it does make sense to be like very explicit in what everything does, even before you've like gotten the ability to get through it.
I prefer the subtle guidance of the player that a game such as Super Metroid can offer.
Right, but we're like the hardcore Metroidvania fans. So like people who aren't as into Metroidvanias, like a lot of people don't like the feeling of being lost.
This is true.
And yeah, and so if you want to design a game for those people, then you want to be a little bit more heavy-handed in directing them. So it can make sense for both styles depending on your target audience.
I find that interesting though. I don't think, like, getting lost isn't necessarily something related to player skill.
No,
So
it's just a preference for the feeling you get from a game.
yeah.
Like Dark Souls is a game designed for people who like the feeling of being frustrated and then succeeding after that frustration. If you like that, then you like Dark Souls. If you don't like that, then you don't like Dark Souls. With some like other factors involved, but like as a general.
I was just thinking of comparing that to how you could say that Nintendo caters towards casual audiences, or getting into the accessibility debate in video games.
Yeah. So it's like in Dark Souls, should you make a version of it designed for people who don't want to be frustrated? Just like in a Metroidvania, should you make a version of it for people who don't want to ever get lost? And
Because
if you
there certainly are. There is a player. The player can affect how lost they feel by how they traverse the environment, but it's not. It's a vague. It's a hard thing to describe, and like the feeling of being lost can be very different for two people. One person could think that being lost is simply not knowing to go left or right down this path, whereas someone else may not feel lost until they're wandering in circles.
So I want to differentiate between feeling lost and feeling stuck. Like when you're lost, it means that you like don't know where you are. You're in an unfamiliar area. And being stuck means that you have no like you don't seem to have any options left.
I think it's very fair to differentiate those.
Yeah, and like I don't think anybody likes the feeling of being stuck, but like people who like the exploration and like going into the unknown, like if it's not really unknown if you're not feeling lost. And that's a lot of the appeal of Metroidvanias to some people.
Sure. So in exploring a new area, if that area was laid out in a linear or near linear fashion, then you would say the player would not feel lost even though they're exploring an unfamiliar area.
Yeah, because there's just like there's only one way to go, and like you have a complete mental map of the area as well, of where you've been. Whereas like if it's a more complicated area, then you like might not like have your mind fully wrapped around all of the connections of all the paths in that area.
So if one has their bearings in an area, and say they have a map that shows exactly where they've been and what connections to what unexplored rooms exist, do you think that person would feel lost?
Yeah, I would describe them as not feeling lost anymore. Like they might feel stuck because maybe they like gone through all the area that they could find and don't know of anywhere to go. So they might feel stuck without feeling lost.
Further pedantic, possibly, question. If a game has a map that updates continuously and shows the player's position on it, can one truly ever be lost in that game?
Yeah. You can still get, I feel, mixed up on where you are even if you do have a map to guide you. Because it
Well, I
doesn't
mean,
help that not everyone is good at maps.
Yeah,
And
well,
also there's the difference between like I can pull up this map anytime and know exactly where I am, and also like being familiar with the area to the extent where you like don't feel like you even need to open the map ever.
Sotten. What's a map in that game?
A miserable pile of secrets.
Something I never look at. Well, hello there, boys.
Just minding their own business, and then you go up and attack them.
Sucks.
so in Metroid Dread, how exactly are you exploring new areas?
It's structurally similar to like Super Metroid. It's just the guidance is a lot stronger.
The
Like, if you think-
hand-holding be strong.
Yeah, like if you think about how the early game is in Super Metroid, just imagine that, but that's the entire game. Like, whenever you get to a new area, it will lock you in, and you can only go into like the correct direction.
It is interesting that people can have such different opinions on the concept of being lost in a video game. Certainly, there are games that appeal to either of those demographics.
Right. Yeah, it's just some people like different things than other people, like different emotional states.
Oh, also, this was just a tutorial here. More of a unspoken one. I mean,
Oh,
for
light all
Zelda
these
players,
things.
obviously, it's common, but...
Mhm.
Couldn't a player easily miss that, though?
Yeah, it's a piece of heart,
It
so it's
is. It
optional.
is very missable. However, most people who play games, if they have something they can light with, they're gonna want to light both. They're gonna see that and be like, oh, I should light both of them. And I feel that is a very common Zelda tactic that expands past Zelda players. Where it's just kind of like, oh, this is a Zelda gimmick. Even
agree.
people who don't play Zeldas, I feel, would know that pretty easily. But it's still
It
a
is
nice
a-
little unspoken tutorial you can learn.
This is a fairly gamey thing. Though, I mean, the game doesn't require you to do it there, and if the player never thought about lighting the lanterns, then they would miss the tutorial.
They would.
Yeah.
But
And also, there are incentivized to not do it because it's a consumable
Yep.
that you're using.
And there was already a chest in that room, so not every player would think to continue to look for loot.
that's the thing with Zeldas. There's always more loot.
Yeah, that's something we brought up during the medium not thing, is that sometimes a player might learn something or be given a tutorial for something, but if you don't ensure that the player learned that thing, then you might not be able to assume that they did learn it. There's also games where like the tutorial teaches you something to do really early in the game, but then you like almost never have to use it, so you just forget it exists, and
Yeah.
then like 5 hours later something requires
They're
that
like,
you do
hey,
it.
guess what? Do it. It's like, what? What do you mean do it? You didn't have me do it before.
Yeah, that can lead to frustration when the game expects you to know how to do a very specific action that may have only come up much earlier in the game.
Yeah, so you need to make sure that if the player is required to do something, you need to either make sure the tutorial for it is like relatively close to when they would have to do it, or that the mechanic is continuously used throughout the game between those 2 points.
The game should use the mechanic in ways that cements the knowledge of the mechanic, which would usually mean repeatedly after the tutorial, and every so often as a reminder.
Or you could like kind of ease them into it, like back into it. Like you could have something just like not be a mechanic for a few hours, and then you like require that them do something really obvious with that mechanic, and then you can like start ramping back up again.
That's true.
Mhm.
That could also be a way to recontextualize a different ability. Introducing a scenario where the player can easily figure out that this mechanic can also do this other thing. And then perhaps later on the game can use that new way of approaching the mechanic. Especially, I think, the intensity of the encounter is important. I'm sorry if those seemed like two completely different sentences, but so if you introduce a mechanic in a boss fight, for example, that's not a good way. Not always a good way to introduce it because
It,
it's a high pressure situation.
I mean, you can make a boss fight where certain stages of it aren't high pressure. But yeah, that as a general rule, you would want to avoid that.
I was actually gonna
reminded-
mention the oh god, what fight is it? The snake one in Elden Ring. That boss.
Oh yeah.
That uses a mechanic not found anywhere else in the game, and it's fun. I find it very fun. However, it's not used anywhere else in the game.
The first time I did that boss fight, the mechanic didn't work.
Oh,
Like I was literally pressing the correct button and it just wasn't doing it.
you were using the weapon as you should,
Yeah.
because it's
and
any
it was-
combination.
Yeah, so it was treating it as if it wasn't in the boss fight.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah.
Weird. Forgive me if I'm mistaken, but isn't the mechanic it uses still something you think to do? Because it's something you
kind
do
of
with
does.
other
Like,
weapons
I
as
kind
well.
of picked it up and I didn't use it. I didn't care. I literally didn't think of it as a mechanic.
Yeah, there was an NPC that tells you that you're supposed to like use that weapon.
Imagine
Against
talking
that
to
boss.
the NPC.
Well, It's
Well,
also
it's Elden
obvious
Ring.
that you have to use
You
that
don't
weapon
have
in
to
the
use
air,
it. You
given the
could beat him
context.
without
that you
it.
can. Well, sure.
And
but
I
it's
thought
the
it was a
intended way of
typical
beating it.
Elden, Dark Souls boss. Where, okay, yeah, I just gotta fight this guy. It's gonna suck. And then
Because-
I tried it, and I'm like, okay, this weapon does kind of sound like it is for it. And I remember a friend mentioning that this boss fight was weird. Because of that, and then I used it, and I'm like, this is fun. I think it scaled with my shit, actually, too, which made it even better.
You can actually take it to the blacksmith and upgrade it too.
Oh,
And
wait,
then it makes the fight like
I
completely
did that.
a joke.
I did that, too.
You just unlock the boss the entire time, and
Yep.
they never get to do anything.
I would argue that the only thing preventing that mechanic from being obvious or trivial is the way the game handles the inventory. So you could acquire the item and then just not remember what it was because you have an inventory full of items.
It's also not intuitive that every single character could use it. Like it looks like the type of weapon that a lot of characters would not be able to use.
Yeah. So I was actually thinking of an encounter in Sekiro, which it's not the novelty of the mechanic. I guess it is the novelty of the mechanic, but the game never gives you a chance to really like practice or use this mechanic before an advanced phase of a boss where it is introduced to you. And it's kind of jarring having a tutorial pop up as you go to the next phase of a boss. And then the game expects you to do it, and if you don't, it spells bad news for you.
If it's the thing I'm thinking about, there's like a picture somewhere depicting it as a technique and being like, "Hey, you can do this."
Sure, but it's never something that comes up in the game before when you'd think the game would have some other encounter, say some regular enemy or some mini boss that can do this mechanic.
Yeah, but yeah, kind of like the point you were saying before about don't introduce your mechanic during a boss fight. You should have mechanics introduced in a like lower stress situation and then ramp up the
Yeah.
stress level of when you need to use it.
The player needs some way to practice a mechanic if they're unfamiliar with how it works.
Agreed.
Especially
Yeah.
in a game like Sekiro where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you got hit twice, you're dead.
And especially in the second phase of a boss that you then have to refight if you mess it up. It's very punishing, and it doesn't really need to be.
Well, part of the point of those games is that they're supposed to feel punishing.
Punishingly fair, perhaps. I don't think that Dark Souls necessarily equals unfair gameplay.
It's not that it's supposed to
Um,
be unfair, it's that it's supposed to feel unfair. Like the Dark Souls is supposed to make you feel like the entire like feeling that you're supposed to get from Dark Souls is that there was this immense challenge and you beat it. Like that's the like culmination of the emotion you're supposed to feel. And so they want to do whatever they can to make you feel like the challenge that you've encountered is as daunting as possible. And so when you beat it, you feel more and more like the maximum amount of accomplishment for doing that.
I see what you mean. Interesting. And in fairness, it is a fairly easy to grasp mechanic that's introduced. It's just some vague timing and a button press.
You just described all of Sekiro.
Yeah, I did. So yeah, exactly. It's something you've been doing the entire game, but the specific timing and pressing of the button it's still different than what one is used to.
Right.
God, look at how stylish I am.
Crawling out of that hole. Do horses, do they usually stand in water if they have the opportunity to? Do
Yeah,
they avoid
horses love
standing in
water.
water?
They're great swimmers, too.
I'm surprised it's not drinking the water right now.
Sacred spring water, Epona knows. Of course I won't do anything out of my league. I'll come home safely. You need to come home safely. 2 minutes. Sorry. Right now.
This prologue does have several horseback sections, correct?
No, I did all the horseback sections. Now I won't
How
see
many were
opponent for
there?
the rest of the game, or half of the game.
How many were there? Just
2
the
riding,
answers?
2 like rounding up, and then 1 riding.
And would you say that this was done to introduce the player to spoiler for Twilight Princess, you get turned into a dog?
No, they control completely different.
I see.
Also, you don't get turned into a dog, you get turned into a wolf.
Sorry.
Oh, I didn't know they used that motif right there. Interesting. They used that in the final battle with Ganon too, I believe. Nice. Oh, spoilers, Ganon is the main boss of the game!
Oh, it's not Vati this time?
No, it's not Vati.
It's not the fat man on the horse.
You mean Radon?
Apparently this is the Elden Ring podcast now.
Hey, I've had Elden Ring brain rot ever since I was playing Vigil. I need to go back and beat it.
I haven't played Elden Ring in weeks.
I haven't played it in
Still need to
months.
finish it.
I beat it before that first patch. I beat it. Wait, no, I beat it once before the first patch, and then like the final boss after the after the first patch, the second time. So I have not played it in a long time.
Oh boy.
I want to see a Zelda game where instead of starting out as some sort of hero, or maybe you're not always, like, people don't always
90%
think
of
of
the
you as
time.
being.
Wait, yeah, you're never like the start of the hero, except for I would say
Well-
Breath of the Wild,
Well,
Majora's
no, what
Mask, and Link's Awakening. You're the actual hero.
I mean is that you sort of are. It's like, oh, you're the chosen one. Do the stuff. You've got the Triforce on your hand. I want to see a game where the Triforce on your hand is actually it's not favorably looked upon by the society in which you live.
You mean just like have the Triforce of Power or some shit?
No,
Like,
just like there's a prophecy that's doom will be brought by somebody with that symbol.
exactly. So you'd be persecuted against for being the chosen one, then have to heroically.
I feel Skyward Sword did that a bit with Groose, and then with Impa. I feel that was done kind of against you in that game. Hey, Midna.
Yeah, it's kind of like the plot of Secret of Mana, where like
Oh, yeah. God. Yeah, you just saved our village, now get the fuck out.
yeah.
Yeah, just for Zelda games, though I haven't played all of them, I feel like the general idea is you're a random kid who, or I don't know, who realizes they're the chosen one and gets up to shenanigans. And they could do the same thing, and they could present that in different ways. And probably at least make it more interesting than a similar thing to what you've done in every Zelda game.
Damn, she
And we don't even need like just green forest elf with a cap Link every time.
They
Let's get
literally had
like
Breath of the
emo
Wild be
Link.
different. What do you mean?
It doesn't matter. I'm
And I
talking
hated
about
it.
still generally for the series.
I know.
I think
Green
it'd be
capped Link is
interesting.
beautiful.
Be interesting if they experimented more with like who Link is
They
and
do that almost
what their
every game.
motivations are.
They do that almost every game. What do you mean? Ever since I would say Ocarina of Time, they have done that.
Okay.
How many have you played?
I don't know. I played a few of them.
In Ocarina of Time, his motivations were essentially, when you get into the game more, helping out Princess Zelda. In Majora's Mask, it was finding Navi. Never do, so you got roped into Termina shit. And Twilight Princess, you got roped into this shit. And you have to go save Princess Zelda. In Wind Waker, it was saving your sister. In... Wait, do I have a Z? Oh, there you go. In Skyward Sword, it was helping your childhood friend and becoming the champion of Hylia. And then in Breath of the Wild, it's literally wake up 100 years, time to go fuck shit up. And they kind of do explain, go into Link's backstory in Breath of the Wild a lot more than what they would.
Yeah, they actually present it a lot differently, I'd say.
But in, Twilight, or not Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, you also had the options to kind of, like, say stuff. And choose how Link kind of responded to stuff.
Did any of that matter?
It depends.
Or is it like silly answer or the regular answer?
Pretty much. But in Twilight Princess, he was talking. And he has a personality in Twilight Princess as well. It's just, he doesn't talk, so it's never as direct. But it's still definitely there. It's kind of up to the person if they want to see it or not, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was reading through a Reddit thread about the East series and how Adol is a silent protagonist, but he still has a personality because like he's an adventurer and he's just all about the adventuring and exploring new areas. And it kind of like meshes with the way the game plays. So even though he is being silent, you still like have an idea of what he's thinking. And Link's kind of the same way,
Yeah.
maybe not to the same extent.
It's interesting the different methods in which you can characterize a silent protagonist. Of course, the lazy way would just have other characters tell you what your character traits are.
Yeah, like in the E series, there has like a backstory that all of the adventures are a book that he's writing after he's been an adventurer all his life. So it's like it contextualizes what happens based on that.
And those are some long books.
Let's try to get rid of the water first. That way.
Oh yeah, tutorials.
Tutorial? Oh, no, man.
It's almost like the tutorial for your character. It's the tutorial of telling you who you're playing.
There you go.
Well, that's not really how to play the game.
No, it's just pretty much introducing the puzzle elements of this game. Especially as a wolf.
It
Well,
is possible though. Go on.
Oh, I was about to say, like, I meant with regards to, like, what Master was saying with, introducing the character. Not necessarily, like, game mechanics.
How soft
there's-
is that?
There is a difference between the, like, teaching somebody what the world is like versus teaching them how the game is played.
I think that I think one could consider it a tutorial if they aren't directly taught any mechanics, but they're taught the mindset with which they should be playing the game. If that makes sense.
So, like, kind of the role they're playing.
If the game is setting the mood for what you should expect to do in the game, and how it expects you to react to situations.
It's
Like
setting up the Ludo narrative.
Sure. You could argue, well, I guess a really dumb example would be that thing they do in a lot of those roguelike trailers where it's like play, die, repeat.
Oh, yeah, where it's just like the character dying over and over and over again.
Like something akin to that could be considered a tutorial, I feel, if it causes you to approach the game differently, even though it's not actually introducing you to or familiarizing you with mechanics.
Setting up expectations.
Yeah. If a game tells you that it has many secrets and that you should look for them, I think that's something a player would remember and adapt their playstyle to.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like been any studies done where they've taken the exact same game and then given it to players and then introduced the game in different ways to like set expectations differently, and thus the players played the game completely differently. Like if somebody told all the players like, "Oh, this is an extremely hard game. You're gonna die all the time," versus like telling them that's a casual game and see the difference in how the players approach it. That seems like something that somebody would have done a study on.
That's interesting. We should do a study on that.
Okay, we need someone to make a game though first.
You can just use some other person's game.
Yeah, there's lots of games out there. It's like, yeah, just go play this casual game called Dark Souls. Like, you could also take the game and then, like, swap out the assets. Like, imagine if you took Dark Souls and, like, you, like, made everything brightly colored and,
No one
like,
died.
cartoony.
Everyone wields like freaking foam swords and shit.
Yeah. And, like, when you run out of health, you don't die. You just, like, get teleported back.
You dramatically faint, and then you're carried away on a stretcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And it makes one wonder, are the games that I've played really the games that I've played? If I went into this game with a different expectation, would I have enjoyed it more?
This is why you just always have your expectations low, like me.
It's not about the height of the expectation, it's about what the expectation even is.
Imagine having expectations to begin with! Unless it's deedlit. That one I did.
See, what if you went into that game and you were told that it was a short narrative adventure and you weren't told Symphony of the Night?
I wasn't told Symphony of the Night, though. That's something I drew from my own conclusions.
Sure, and that's still something that the game communicated to you.
Just by
Like,
its
oh,
graphics.
these animations look kind of like Symphony of the Night, therefore the game must be like
Yeah,
just like
shut up.
Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
They may not have intentionally set up expectations, but they set up expectations.
Exactly.
That is such a happy-looking wolf.
Seeing his princess.
Master, that's spoilers.
Yeah, we can't see her hands. We don't know she has had the same industrial accident.
Oh, game drop! Game drop!
Oh no.
Oh yeah, I have my brightness turned up way too much. Usually you could not see your eyes.
Yeah, if you played Smash, that's clearly Zelda.
Oh yeah.
It's spoilers to say that that person's face is Zelda's face.
It is. Lore time. Oh, God, I love that song.
So is it lore if they like force you to watch it in a cutscene?
Yeah. Lore can be spoken or unspoken, shown or unshown.
Or doesn't have to be optional.
Yeah.
It's still the background
fucked
information.
up.
If a game shows you item descriptions on its loading screen, then you could say that it's mandatory that you read them because it's being shown to you in the same way that this
There's the
video
boy.
is being shown to you.
Here
Just
comes
like
the boy.
I could ignore this just like I ignore the item descriptions on loading screens.
Exactly. About a Zelda game where you're the incarnation of Ganon.
I said that already! The Triforce of Power!
I didn't know what you meant by that.
That's so. What else
know
could
what
I
the Triforce of
mean?
Power is.
I
That's
mean,
okay.
Ganon usually has the Triforce of Power,
He
but
always does.
you could have something set before. What was it? A Link to the Past where he got it. You could
No,
have.
technically it was Skyward Sword. You would have to go even further back from that.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. I didn't realize that was what you meant, so I'm
Oh
sorry.
shit, that's the Triforce of Wisdom they showed. Or no, that was Power. Because Power is the top, Wisdom I believe is the bottom right, and Courage I believe is bottom left.
Is it the same on the Wii version, or is it mirrored?
No, I don't know. That's actually a really good question, because that is like...
That's incredibly important.
No, that is like something that is used in every game. Each Triforce has a spot. Like, there's no negotiating that.
Yeah. That would be a very
Google
big
it!
problem.
Quick! Yeah, it'd be interesting if you played as Ganon and Link was the evil one for once. The courageous one.
Well, I don't even think that direct role reversal is necessary. You could
Oh,
just
I would
have...
love it.
I mean, you could just have, like, you know, spoilers for a Castlevania game. Aria of Sorrow.
Oh, my God. Ah, her song.
How do you feel about Midna?
I love Midna. I fucking love it. She is easily my favorite helper in any Zelda game.
Cauldrath, how do you feel about Midna?
And she's about the same as like Navi. Like they kind of just all. I guess Midna has a bit more personality to her than most of the other ones, so
I never even minded Navi. I honestly don't get the hate for her.
yeah.
People need to hate on
Tutorials.
the sword woman. Cause she's the actual annoying helper.
Ah, Fee? Yeah.
Yeah.
I still need to play through that one. I did like there was a sale recently for Skyward Sword, so I actually got it on Switch. I could not stand it on the Wii U.
For which game?
Skyward Sword.
You mean the Wii?
No, it was on Wii U.
No, it was not. It was on Wii. The only
Really?
yes, the only Zelda game released for the Wii U was Breath of the Wild, other than the HD remasters for Wind Waker and Twilight Princess.
Hmm.
I literally...
Wait, no, it says Wii and Wii U.
Well, because it could be played on the Wii U, but it was only originally released for the Wii.
It was
It's
released
backwards
on the Wii U
compatible.
Virtual Console.
Was it actually?
Yeah.
What? No way.
As of September 2016, Skyward Sword was released on the Nintendo eShop on the Wii U Virtual Console.
Really? See, on Wikipedia it just says Wii and Nintendo Switch.
I mean,
Release...
the sidebar on when I Google it says Nintendo
yeah.
Switch, Wii, and Wii U.
Re-released as a part of the series' 30th anniversary celebrations. Oh, so they just emulated it for the Wii. That's weird. Huh. I didn't know they had a Wii Virtual Console on the Wii U.
Yeah, Virtual Console on the regular Wii.
No, I mean a Wii Virtual Console specifically for the Wii U. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't like it because it like picked up the back swings as front swings. So and
Were
it
you
had
using the HD Rumble thing too? Or not the HD Rumble, yeah. Extended one?
Yeah.
I hated that game's motion controls in general.
Like I didn't mind quite Twilight Princess's motion controls, but just like the fact that directional attacks were so important in
Yeah.
Skyward Sword, and then they wound up being backwards. That would just
And the flying
annoyed me.
sucked. Flying
Also
sucked in that game.
Stabs morphing into swings. Because you, like, move your arm back to do the stab.
Yep. And I got the Master Shield twice in that game. Or the Hylian Shield twice. First time I didn't even play half the game.
There's a lot of Zeldas where I'll like go buy a Hylian shield and then I go find one, and it's like, oh, great, glad I bought this.
I always buy it, no matter what. I have to get it. I gotta make Link look like Link. If I don't, I have failed the game.
So that's why you hated Breath of the Wild, right?
Oh no, I hated Breath of the Wild for a lot of other reasons. I
Maybe
got
Link will
the Tunic
become-
of the Wild and shit. I got the outfit.
Was that in the DLC?
No, that was
Because
base.
I
That
don't-
was doing 120 shrines.
Oh, yeah, I did not do 100.
Oh, I did.
Like, I hate this game. I'm gonna do every shrine in it.
Link's overdue for another animal transformation. Maybe in Breath of the Wild 2 he'll become a deer or a gazelle.
Wolf fit him really well, honestly. Which honestly kind of makes sense if you consider him more as a hunting dog than a wolf. And Ganon turning into the giant boar beast that he always is.
Spoilers.
Well, it's
That's-
for every Zelda
That is
game.
literally Zelda 1, that is not spoilers. He's literally in the game over screen of Zelda 2. Get out of here.
Yeah, what if somebody's like never died in Zelda 2?
Then who the fuck are you? You're not human.
Or you've never played Zelda 2?
That too.
I've never played Zelda 2.
I have. I think I beat it too. With save states, obviously.
I think I beat it on console.
Avoid that fuck.
Tutorials. What else are you taught in this game that comes in handy later?
Ah!
How to use every single item you get.
Yeah. Wait. Oh yeah, I know what I gotta do. See if I can go get the sheep quick.
Good thing nobody noticed the giant hole in their house.
Oh, I didn't know I could talk to the frogs. No.
The
I
cute frogs.
They are very cute frogs.
I guess this is like the stealth tutorial.
Kind
How
of.
often do you need to stealth? Hey, isn't that a dog in those grasses like 5 feet behind you?
Yeah,
No, he's invisible. You can't see him because he's in the grass.
I'm gonna go talk to the puppy. Gotta scare down him though. Know exactly how to do it. Aw.
So it does kind of tutorialize that too, by like swinging the camera around. Sometimes I feel like the games are a bit too on the nose with it. Like, yeah, let me figure out at least something.
Yes.
Not like, camera zooms on the first platform you have to go. The camera zooms in on the second platform you have to go to.
Yeah, it's not always. So, Nintendo games are often criticized, or well, sometimes criticized for the excessive tutorialization and unnecessary cutscenes.
Yep.
But the cutscenes, like a scene showing the platforms to jump on, is that really a tutorial?
Kind of. It's basically just showing you the solution to the puzzle, so that you know exactly what you're supposed to do.
It's not teaching you anything new, though. It's just showing you platforms. It's not like there's not a puzzle in figuring out that there are platforms and that you jump on them, is it?
It's not a puzzle, but it could be considered a mechanic you need to learn.
Oh wait.
You've already learned platforming in this game. So
Well, they're making sure that you know. They're reinforcing it.
So my point here is that perhaps beyond the initial tutorial, these Nintendo games would benefit from removing their unnecessary cutscenes
They're made for
because
kids.
they're trying to tutorialize something that's already been tutorialized repeatedly.
That's the thing, though. They're made for kids.
Kids have plastic brains. They can.
Yes, but their demographic. They want to reach as many people as possible without alienating many at all. So, most of the time, kids, even if they're smart, don't care about the tutorials. They'll live
Yeah.
through them. So,
But
that's
they
why they do it for Nintendo, at least.
they could have like a option to take that out.
People have been asking that for Game Freak for years. And, you know, Pokemon in general, and they still haven't done it.
It does take extra time to code that in.
Exactly. Game
I'm
Freak
sure it
can't even
takes at
code
least
in.
10 minutes.
Probably not if it's lore related, no. It probably takes a lot more.
Well, at least 10 minutes.
Oh god. I'm getting the shield.
So like doing the programming of like check the variable and then it doesn't do the thing if the variable is set. That's the easy part. You also have to like set up a UI and then like where it lets you choose the option and then explains the options. That takes a little bit more time.
Got it.
10 minutes at least.
People severely underestimate the amount of time it takes to make a good UI.
There you go.
I feel like you'd hear a wolf jumping around your house.
He's a very quiet one. Okay, now the solution there. He just didn't place it there before.
I mean, I can hear my tiny dog just like walking around.
But your dog's not trying to be sneaky.
Come on, get up there.
That's true.
You're fine, Russell. Ignore me. Ignore the sneaky, stealthy wolf. Got it. Oh boy. I gotta do the Tears of Light tutorial. Oh shit! Got 10 minutes left and we're not even done with the Twilight Princess tutorial. Getting there.
Well, at this point, isn't the tutorial over?
No.
Didn't you expect to not finish the tutorial?
Yeah, but still. Technically, the tutorial goes until you cleanse this area of Twilight. And
why is that the
honestly,
spot where it ends?
that's just where it's usually consensus is considered where it is, or until some people consider it when you leave the field, or leave the Pharaon Woods, so when you complete the first dungeon. So depending on who you ask, it could end there or it could end right after. I've come to you. Oh yeah, I gotta fight. Time to maul it to death. Yeah.
They lured you into a trap.
Yeah, it's gonna die.
I feel like if I was an evil shadow being, I wouldn't choose to fight the hero of
You know they're being
champion of light
commanded to
in
by Zant, right?
let me finish. I wouldn't choose to fight literally on top of a sacred spring.
The spring does nothing with the Shadow Beast. It's only after you cleanse them do they actually matter. I always like these beasts of light, though.
Yeah.
Minus, like, the human face moth one.
Build games do have a tendency to have some really weird NPCs.
I like the Spirits of Light. And the music's good. Oh boy.
I guess this is kind of combining story with tutorial, since it's like giving you a plot reason for why you need to do things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I guess like it is much easier to teach the player something if like it makes ludonarrative sense.
Maybe.
Like if the thing that the player wants to do aligns with what the character wants to do, and then you like tell the player what the character wants, then the player would often just naturally do that thing.
I think that's true. Though, not every player cares about what their character thinks.
True.
There's various amounts of investment and role playing.
But if you try to play the game in the complete opposite way that the character would act, can you really complain if you like wind up going the wrong direction?
Maybe. But it's not like you know what your character's gonna do with a grapple shot or something.
Is it to save
Not
Hyrule,
all
obviously.
not all mechanics would have that.
Right, but the ones where you can do that, it is helpful.
Hmm.
Also, I'm gonna
Can you
call
give
it
some
here at least for
examples?
Oh.
What mechanics would make more sense to a player presented in this fashion?
Ones where you're interacting with the world. Like if it's just something that the character does that's like self-contained with them, then it's probably something that you have to like explain to the player. But if it's something that like there's something in the world and you're supposed to interact with it, then making it make ludonarrative sense, then like giving the player or saying that the character has an incentive to interact with that thing would help incentivize the player to do the same interaction. And if that interaction is mechanically what you're supposed to do, then the alignment there would make it more cohesive.
Yeah. Say there's a cutscene where it is established that a player likes breaking pots.
You mean the
That
character?
would certainly make a player more likely to want to break pots.
Yeah. So we can just assume that like Link has this deep-seated hatred of pottery.
Or if you do that, it almost feel compelled to break pottery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like maybe he had a like traumatic experience with a pot when he was a child.
They
and now,
literally
like, can't-
contain money, you dingle dongles. You're reading way too much in it. Do it.
But it makes more sense for him to want to destroy the pots if they're like causing him trauma.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, I'm breaking these pots to like steal my neighbor's money. Or maybe he's just also a kleptomaniac too.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to explain to the player perhaps the backstory or motivations of character if say it's an open world RPG and you choose a background. Explaining what your motivations are helps the player if they so choose to more accurately perform that role.
Yeah. And then if the mechanics line up with that, like, if your background indicates that your character would act a certain way, and then acting that way gives you bonuses, then that would like help align the two.
It's kind of similar to when we discussed how to present a game and how that changes the way it's played, because presentation of your character, one could say, is also important.
It sets expectations.
There are many ways to present this information to the player, and I'm glad we covered these two concepts. Perhaps next time we can discuss other ways that games convey information to the player.
Perhaps. Or we
We
can
have
try
1
to
minute of talking left, and I've
yeah,
talked
we can try to slam
lot
it
of
all
talking.
into 1 minute. Or we could just call it now.
No, we have to finish the minute.
Okay. I don't know when the minute rolled over, or we could do a countdown.
Some people really dislike tutorials, so they are somewhat necessary.
I think people should be given an option. I understand it can be more work, but depending on the game, like I do like it with when games are like, do you need it, like where you can choose to get in a tutorial? Like there are games where it's like, oh, do you need help understanding this, and you can choose yes or no, or is this your first time playing? I think those options are the best implemented, but I understand when games can't do it.
So we actually mentioned this during the medium knot thing, where sometimes a player will skip a tutorial and have no idea what they were supposed to have learned from it.
Ah,
Yeah.
I hate when people do that.
Um,
So many people instinctively just skip tutorials. Please read your tutorials. It's important for your
No!
enjoyment of the
You know
game.
what?
It
I'm gonna
takes
skip
10
them all the
seconds.
time just for you.
You actively sabotage your own video game playing. Don't do that.
And it's my
Oh,
experience. I'll experience it
okay.
how I want.
Well, don't get mad at other people then.
Why would I get mad at other people?
well, like you might play the game and then you might not enjoy it because you don't know what you're doing, and you're like, oh, this is a bad game.
Only people who are actually like self-centered and think they know everything about a game do that, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of people like that.
well, and they're dum-dums. Don't do that.
Okay.
Don't be an asshole. Like,
I mean, if you
Touch.
if you just be like to everyone in the world, hey, stop being an asshole, and they actually did that, so many problems would stop.
all the
existing.
problems would stop existing. What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Yes. So, as we've established, it doesn't work.
I wish. Just tell everyone, hey, stop being a dick.
Yeah.
One must look inside themselves to see their own asshole and tell
That's,
that asshole to stop.
that's physically impossible for most people.
Yeah. Sadly. Well, we are past time now, so.
Yep.
That's true.
Alright. Have a nice night, everyone, and thank you for coming.
Yep.
Good
Thanks
night.
for listening. Bye.